Yeah, okay, so hi everybody, welcome. I wanna say welcome to this video, okay? I thought I'd give everybody a little bit of an insight background onto Kung Fu and traditional martial arts, because it's really sad. I feel there's a lot of people out there who really don't know much about it. Okay, first of all, what is Kung Fu, okay? This is especially for young people who really don't know. First of all, you may have heard of martial arts, martial arts being fighting styles. There are many different systems of fighting that have been developed since the ancient times, but there were specific martial arts that were specifically supposedly originating from China. Some go as far back as the original Shaolin Temple, but then there are, obviously, there's all kinds of stories, so that where they actually originate from. I mean, fighting in general, fitness and fighting, in terms of systematic, developed systems of like an educational, what do you call it, syllabuses, training, regimented, proper, organized training for exercising and keeping fit, and then fighting, when the two do go hand in hand, obviously. But the everything, the theory, the concepts, the science behind it, the physical training, that's vast, and it goes far back, But but the Kung Fu systems and the, especially the Chinese martial arts, were very popular in history, well before there were such things as movie, action, like martial arts movies and things like that. We're talking about the actual true martial arts before guns were invented, before guns and modern day technology and weapons and stuff. Obviously, people have been fighting and using things as weapons far back as the caveman days, whatever, using stones, sticks, whatever they could use to fight, and then later on forming their own weapons such as spears or bows and arrows and stuff like that, and other methods of other weapons and stuff. So the technology is involved in weaponry as it has in everything, but in terms of fighting, like bare hands, just hand-to-hand fighting, that's been going on for years. And the amazing thing about the martial art, the traditional martial arts, okay, let me just mention one thing. So the thing, in terms of the Chinese martial arts and the Kung Fu systems, they were spread out. They influenced and inspired so many people, and various systems spread throughout the world, and so were developed around the world based on, as the story goes, and as a lot of true historical facts go, that they were based off of Kung Fu. More and more styles came about, basically, and then that's how we end up with other things, such as Japanese karate, or Okinawan karate, things like that, Taekwondo from Korea, and various different arts that spread out, and it all branched out to kickboxing, and then boxing and all of the stuff, Muay Thai, Thailand, lots of different arts across many different countries and then continents and then to the world. There are so many vast ways of fighting. Obviously, knowingly striking, and just basically striking and guarding against strikes, and then countering, obviously. But and then there's grappling type methods, whether that be standing or on the ground. That's not the point. But you're able to defend yourself and fight, with different methods. In short, though, the amazing, brilliant thing about the Chinese martial arts, or traditional ancient Kung Fu ways, and traditional martial arts ways, including karate, they were all about studying health and finding inner peace through the discipline of the training. And they developed, not only the people that practiced these arts developed themselves to extraordinary levels of self-control and ability, and became more advanced, enhanced human beings, mentally and physically, in terms of strength, in every essence of strength, that is, through determination, through calmness, the hard and the soft, basically, which are the concepts of yin and yang, yin and yang, which are very prominent, very important, integral part of martial arts training, especially these martial arts which I'm referring to. Martial arts, it was about two things. It was about fighting and survival, especially Kung Fu. You're fighting for survival, to defend yourself, but it was also about peace and self-control, and especially when that was the story goes that there was an Indian monk named Bodhidharma who went to the Shaolin Temple, who was he was teaching them forms of as far as I remember, it was about forms of yoga, exercises and stuff, and a lot of these movements and stuff were based on animal and other elements of nature. So a lot of the movements were based on those. So literally studying from nature, the strongest, most powerful thing of all. Nature brings life, and nature is the reality in everything. That all reality in our universe is about, right? Is based on, is sustained by nature, reality. That is what the only thing that is. Without reality, there would be nothing, right? So basically, but he took these things. Where he got them from, or whether he came up with them himself, who knows? I mean, all the martial arts are created by human beings. It's just our own human expression in the mental and physical form of what we're taking in, knowledge around us from life. But basically, this guy Bodhidharma basically took as the story goes, he took these. He saw that the monks in the Shaolin Temple, who were Buddhist monks, the original Shaolin monks, were meditating a lot, but they were not getting enough exercise. So he was introducing various exercises to them for their strength, for their flexibility and things like that, to give them some more physical activity. Now the monks apparently over time, whether it was in some way with his guidance or from their own observations and observations of animals too, don't forget, in their natural way of how they survive and move, they learned and they developed and they improved upon what they'd learned, and they developed these actual systems of movement, and they for exercise and health and fitness, and for fighting, self-defense, and that is basically become Kung Fu, or Kung Fu, wushu. We're having quite different martial arts, So basically, they developed forms, they developed training methods, and that, and that was that. But the amazing thing is, it came from studying nature. Now, being Buddhists as they were anyway, which was all about finding peace, living a healthy, peaceful life, not being distracted by the delusional, fake things in the society that you see in the world, and this stuff is still relevant today more than ever. One thing they were not just showy. You might see various kung fu shows, modern day stuff nowadays, or you might have seen amazing things like displays of flashy movements in movies and stuff, which is, a lot of people love that. I love that, watching movies like that. But then you also see a lot of people in this modern day and age, it's not a lot really, because the popularity's died out. In the West and in the rest of the world, the traditional martial arts and kung fu and stuff gained popularity from things like movies. Everybody knows Bruce Lee. Bruce Lee was a big, he was just this character, this guy who was a real larger-than-life character who basically exposed martial arts more to the world, let the world know more about traditional, ancient Chinese martial arts. And with his modern day, at the time, take on things, he was just respected, and not only that, he could kick ass. He was a fighter, and he was this young hip guy, and he just bridged that, basically the Chinese martial arts with the West, and got people to take note. And lots of films followed. A lot of people were making films. So it was in the 70s and the 80s, around that time, when the kung fu movies started really popular. And it was from movies and stuff mainly that a lot of people got into it. So there was like Westerners travelling to the East or looking for teachers and stuff in their own countries, and there was a lot of like bogus stuff as well, which there always has been, like fake stuff. But there's also a lot of talented people, and some of the people of the time, like, they may have not even been Chinese, but they'd be going to like study, or Japanese or whatever, but they would go to study these Oriental or these Eastern arts, and they'd train even more diligently than some of the whoever else was training, but they'd take it seriously. They'd pay money or whatever it was, but they'd study it hard, and there were other people that study from books and stuff. They'd do whatever they could to get this knowledge. It helped people to believe in themselves more, whether it be even just mentally. Regardless of what styles or what was more specifically useful or beneficial to a person, if you're comparing styles and practicality, but it was more about people it was really helping people, with their situation. Like, some people were like timid. You had kids that were getting bullied and stuff in schools, and it was a way of realizing that anyone can, basically, with determination, you can push yourself to better levels of strength and endurance and everything, and skill and ability and calmness. It was a way of giving people confidence and calmness and self-assurance, and being more focused in general and aware of their being, self-respect. So it was kind of like sharing a bit of that kind of Shaolin essence, you could say, of being one with nature and feeling your own energy, with just people as a society. There's this big thing in the history of like the Shaolin and it's even been portrayed in movies too, such as like the 36th Chamber of Shaolin starring Gordon Liu, in stories like that, where they've actually talked about where the martial arts of the Shaolin Temple were in the history supposed to be just kept within the temple. It wasn't okay to be teaching people outside the Shaolin Temple in the ancient history we're talking. But then it spread out, obviously. People that left the temple or whatever, and it just spread out the knowledge, but the thing is, because the idea is like you can't just be a fighter in life and be violent, ego, it doesn't help a person. Violence doesn't help people at all. It's about peace. So in the wrong hand, like they say, the example is like a kitchen knife. A kitchen knife in the right hands can be a tool for cooking. In the wrong hands, it can be a dangerous weapon, right? So the thing is, this was the whole thing. So a lot of monks, even probably today, but especially in the ancient times, they'd be saying like, the martial arts, the wisdom is the most important thing. It's not about fighting. That's the last, option if you've got no other choice. But really, it's about inner peace. So just having the wrong attitude and ego, like, it could be seen as violent. They weren't allowed to, kill a mosquito or whatever. It's like literally, or just even have hatred or anger or irritation towards people or jealousy. And it was about literally trying to be as egoless and as pure as possible you can be, because that's the best way to be. It really is the best way to be. There is no competition really between human beings. We're just conditioned by this, in this delusional society that we create for ourselves. So basically, martial arts was about maintaining the self, peace, and if you weren't ready, if you wasn't like clear, calm water, the surface of water, if you wasn't clear and calm, there was no way that you would be ready to learn martial arts and physical, because you could just be dangerous, a dangerous person, and it'd be like putting logs on the fire. You're just setting yourself up for disaster. If you're a violent person, you're setting yourself up for hell, basically. So anyhow, basically, so the martial arts, though, they were amazing arts. Some of the arts became like more showy and more specifically like more like circus act displays of showy physicality, almost like today's modern dancing you see and stuff like that, or some crazy stunts and action moves you see in movies. So there were movies and stuff where things like that later on, obviously, that took use of that. Obviously, the wushu forms and stuff like that, which are a more fluid, acrobatic type forms of like martial arts in general, that were more like for sports competition and stuff. That came about much later, after because they didn't want people to be going around teaching all these deadly, like, realistic skills to people, so they came up with these formalized, showy kind of display type demonstration martial arts, basically. But the origins are still there inside, and they're rooted, and there are so many different styles, so many different styles of kung fu and traditional martial arts in general. Just karate, for example, which they say originates from kung fu. There's like various systems of that, So, but the thing is, a lot of people don't know what it truly is about, and in today's modern day and age, they just don't have a clue. So when you hear people talking about ninjas, for example, or the ninja of ancient Japan, or when someone's talking about any style, like a stylized kung fu style, it sounds like a comedy. Whenever you mention animal styles of kung fu, for example, like styles based on the movements of animals, are often the only thing that people may have any recollection of is the modern day Disney movies, the Kung Fu Panda, for example. But that's actually based on true, knowledge from ancient history. But people don't know it, and it's really sad. I've talked to people, because I live in China, as I say, I've lived in China for many years, but I've talked to a lot of people, and the younger generation, people, they just don't know. And it's dying in popularity all over the world. And in the modern day and age, we have things like MMA, right? Well, I'm making this for you now. This is the year 2020. Who knows what's going to be around in the future? But it's been on a slow decline. The traditional martial arts, it's been dying out in popularity, and it's really sad. But it's real deep knowledge. It's very useful knowledge for self-defense. It depends how you apply it. Now, different styles are used for different things, the same way as different techniques are, just like different tools or different ideas, they're used for different things. And everything should be in the flow of nature, basically, in the way of yin and yang, basically, the way of the flow of nature. You can't push or pull things in a certain way that things are not going to work, Things have to be balanced, and what do you call it, complement each other, So, I won't get into deep philosophies on that now, but there are a lot of philosophies like we could use from the yin and yang, basically, to talk about this. But I'm not going to talk about that now. I'll give you a bit of advice. Anybody you can, if you get a bit of time, do check out a book by Lao Tzu, okay, the old ancient Chinese philosopher called Lao Tzu. The book is called the Dao De Jing, okay, Dao De Jing is Daodejing, okay, Dao De Jing. Do look at the book. It's a very good book. For me, it's the best influence you can get. It's the best inspiration in life, because it's the best underlying, at least it introduces the whole concept of yin and yang, basically, what everything's based on. Everything is based on and it's very hard to say it is. No, it isn't, sorry, But anyway, it's not about human ideas. It's not about human, like my point of view over yours, or that. It's just literally just, you talk about nature. There are things we don't know, there are things we perceive to be, there are things that are, and things are constantly changing, but there must be balance, there must be dark for there to be light, there must be good and bad, hard, soft, fast, slow, all that stuff. Okay. But yeah, let's just get back to what I'm basically saying, though. In terms of a fighting art, like fighting for self-defense and martial arts, in the modern day and age, it's gone back kind of, since MMA has been popular for the last, let's say, 10 or 20 years, gradually gaining popularity, till now we're in 2020 in this video. And these kind of arts, are popular, like MMA, mixed martial arts, which is based on various systems of martial arts, more like wrestling, boxing, kickboxing, Muay Thai, jiu-jitsu, not the original Japanese jiu-jitsu, the original, but more specifically like the Gracie Brazilian style type jiu-jitsu has had a lot of influence on it, and the ground fighting, the grappling, and even the working out that they do, the kind of physiques that they have. You get some guys who are really big, men and women that are really like big and muscly people. You get other ones that are just, you know, not so massive, like, you know, bodybuilders, but definitely they are very, very physically, you know, you can see the physique, you know, and they're strong, they're fit, they're athletes, they're ready to fight. There are people in the army and stuff, and people that actually do support this kind of training. They think is very realistic. And in today's modern day and age, things like Kung Fu, not only has it been losing popularity anyway, and it's not, because it's a hard thing to train. Traditional martial arts is very hard, and it takes years of training. But not only that, and it's a deep philosophy, but not only that, yeah, and about finding a good teacher or whatever else. But not only that, it's like people don't know much about it. There's not so many movies about it. Things have moved on, and people look at it like a joke. They look at traditional martial arts and Kung Fu like it's a joke, and we see certain videos online. There are certain videos and competitions that have taken place, public competitions, where traditional so-called or supposedly Kung Fu practitioners or Kung Fu fans or whatever you want to call it, people that have been wearing some kind of outfits, and they go into these competitions and they fight with MMA fighters. And I'm not making excuses for either one, okay? May the best man win, if whatever, you know. I don't support competition. That's not one of the true ways of martial arts. You know, martial arts, the true meaning of martial arts is the way I see it, and Kung Fu is to enhance a person for peace in life. But you know, you only fight if you need to in self-defense. But the traditional martial artists, these Kung Fu, supposed Kung Fu practitioners, or people that are doing karate, taekwondo, excuse me, aikido, a Japanese art, you know, things like that. All these different arts that were once so popular, you know, or even amongst the West, even, or whatever, to some degree, they get their arse beat. I mean, they get beaten up so badly, and they lose, and they're trying to pull off these fancy moves and stuff, but they're just getting destroyed in the ring. They're really beaten, and they lose badly. They lose quick to these MMA fighters, excuse me, these MMA fighters that are really, you know, tough and all out practical, straight up, no BS, just training certain techniques for hardcore fighting to take you down, wrestle you, whatever it is, beat you into submission, knock you out, whatever. They're training hardcore, and they're not fancy and dancing around. And what it is it gives traditional martial arts and Kung Fu a very bad name for whatever's left of it out there, and proves more so to the unknowing people of today's public, especially the younger generations. It enforces the idea that these old arts are bullshit and things have moved on and things are better now, and that stuff doesn't work. Or they might say things like, you know, think the traditional arts used to work, but no, people are more smart now. They know that people don't fight like that, you know, and they just pull out any kind of thing. They'll put down the training methods. They'll put traditional martial arts down for the fancy movements, for the whatever it is, the forms, the cutters. They'll find anything they can just to make these people out to be clowns and idiots, and they'll show these videos. This is not me just in defense of traditional martial arts because I love it, or it's the absolute truth. It's such a sad thing. They see these people that are supposed to be traditional martial artists. Some of them may have been a bit more serious, but a lot of these people are clearly not training the same way. Either that, or they were just unlucky on the day. But I'm just saying, a lot of these people have, okay, just clearly they've not used the techniques right. They're not meant to be used like that. They're not meant to train like that. They've not been ready. Either that, or they're just not up to the same fighting, sensible, pure fighting, focus, mind and body, I'm saying, training level that some of these MMA guys are. It doesn't matter what style or what it is you use. It depends how you use it. Anything can be useful depending on how you use it. So these guys are just clearly going in basically like a dancer, just doing a few fancy moves, trying to win with some fancy style, kung fu in their mind, and they end up getting beaten by somebody who's basically like a soldier with bare hands. You know, these MMA guys go straight through them and destroy them, and then straight away it's immediately, you know, kung fu becomes a joke. But the truth is, it's still not like style over style, which style's better, because it depends on the practitioner. But the truth is, the ultimate truth is, these deep traditional kung fu, old ancient styles, don't let that word fool you either. I'm saying styles that were so used for self-defense in terms of life and death situations, wars and everything. When people were not trying to be fancy back in the day, when it was wars or you had to protect yourself, these things became popular for a reason. They were trained for real. When you had people coming at you in the ancient days with whatever it was, bladed weapons or gangs of people trying to kill in the villages or whatever, they trained and they believed in this stuff, and they were popular for years, the traditional martial arts, because they were actually proven to work, to actually, you know, the way they trained was to be able to really fight and protect themselves. This is not what's happening today in the modern day and age. People may be learning certain techniques, I'm saying in the schools that are around, far and few between do you find ones which are like better like that, but a lot of the time you're just learning stylized moves, and then they get their ass beat and they lose in fights to these MMA fighters. So the traditional martial arts have lost a lot of popularity. But the truth is, the real truth is, the traditional martial arts, as they were supposed to be, and as they were trained, and trained properly, it doesn't mean just trained harder, it means trained in the right way, and the way the moves are supposed to be used, and the styles, these styles for fighting, just for fighting, they were so much more advanced. I'm not saying fancy technicality, showiness, or because they were just so much deeper. Like, I'm just making up some rubbish. I'm saying they were very, very scientific, not complex. They were trained in a way that is very, very applicable to real fighting and self-defense. Now, you've got fighting in a competition situation, you've got with rules or without, but I'm just saying, you've got fighting like when you've got two people about to duel who have got fighting experience facing each other, or you've got this fighting that needs to be done to protect yourself in a street encounter if someone's going to mug you or attack you, for example, whatever it is. But these arts were very, very, when I say thought out and trained out, proper real deal, they were, and they are, and the skills are of course relevant as ever today, and the philosophy. So it's for maintaining the self and peace and everything, but they are seriously good training. The skills need to be trained correctly, regularly. Sparring needs to be done. You need to be flowing and not rigid, and understand how to flow between movements. Like you'd be doing boxing 1 minute and you'd flow into another technique. The techniques work under certain circumstances. It doesn't mean that you know this style or this set of techniques and it's going to work in every situation. You just stand in a certain position and just, let's make it work. No, it doesn't work like that. Okay, you don't say, let's get into the mantis or the monkey, whatever it is, position, and say, okay, I'm going to show you how this is going to work. No, chances are, with a rigid frame of mind like that, you'll get beaten. If the natural animals in the natural world were trying to get things done by forcing a style, they wouldn't do much good for themselves at all. It's because it's a natural way of movement, the same way as a fish would be flowing with the current of the water and, you know, moving with things, you know, a certain way. The ripples on the water. I don't know the best example to give you. It's like mirroring your opponent, flowing with the essence of yin and yang, as I say, you know, and and moving in a correct way of reaction. Someone throws a ball at you, or let's say you're playing ping pong and you move one way or you go the other way and it's the wrong direction. You're going to move in accordance to get that move right, to meet the ball with your paddle, your bat, right? And that's how things work. It might just sound like I'm being funny here. I'm going to do some funny kung fu style and I'm going to meet your moves and be accurate. No, I'm not making it up. It's a real kind of training. and then you've got real conditioning for the training too, which is why the training is very hard. So all in all, it was a hard thing. It wasn't for everybody anyway, and then it's only for people that really can focus and train hard too. So while there were lots of people training Kung Fu in the old days, it was and that more so, it was still not the whole world, obviously, and it was a hard thing. And I've heard all kinds of stories about the old history of how like Kung Fu was only for rich people, especially if there was like a lot of teachers going around. And you hear stories about this, like back in the ancient days when people were going around trying to make a bit of money off of it, and they might have been like con artists, teachers and stuff, not only in China, in the West as well, but let's say in the ancient days. But then also it was like for the poor people too, in some ways. But it's basically for the have-nots. It was for the people that were weak, not tough. It was basically about the techniques to get people stronger, to give. And it's the amazing, brilliant thing about the traditional martial arts and the Kung Fu is about the techniques and how you use them. It's about the techniques. It wasn't only about muscle and big build. In today's modern day, people will laugh and make jokes of that and say that's all fantasy, like you see in the movies. Some little skinny guy beats a big tough guy. We're not saying you don't need any physique. We're not saying you don't need to get different kinds of working out, and stuff, but different strength and flexibility are for different things. So these arts were trained in a certain way, and as I say, it's just the knowledge that's been flushed away, or like sadly just dwindling away, and it's really, really sad, because people that know about traditional martial arts and have trained it so hard like I have all my life, maybe more than me even, people that are really, really good, they all know what's real and what's not, and I know just from what I've learned in myself, and I know what's real and what's not. So it works. It's not a case of what works, a fishing rod works, a gun works, but they're different, in different situations. So traditional martial arts and Kung Fu, traditional Kung Fu, there's a lot of different styles. Styles not as in a flashy way, a style, but it's like a style as in a different systems, different methods, and it's best to know as many as you can. It's like there's many ways to create art, that's what I'm basically trying to say. So basically this is what it is. It's about imagination, yes, but it's about working in accordance with nature and the world and science, So it's nature. So basically in the modern day and age, a lot of people just don't believe in the traditional martial arts because it's like dying out, but it's an amazing, really, really great thing. It really is. It can help a lot of people, and if you study the traditional martial arts and you really look into it, you'll see. But you've got to be real. So when you first learn the techniques, it can be a bit rigid. When you learn a traditional martial art like a karate or a kung fu or karate or anything like that, it could be aikido, it could be ninjutsu. But these, by all means, are not joke styles. It's not bullshit or nonsense. Do not be at all fooled by what you see on the internet or what people say. Again, don't just go in with an ego and just looking for fights and just try and think you're going to win because you know this style. If someone is physically more stronger than you, they'll beat the crap out of you. So the traditional martial arts are about skill. Obviously, these people who are not in the same physique to match up with some of these MMA guys, they're going to get their ass beat if their skills are not matched up to it. And you've got to have some level of fitness anyway, but I'm saying that the skill, overcoming bigger, stronger opponents or whatever attacks you've got coming at you, you've got to be able to flow like water, like Bruce Lee said. It's not just a metaphor, it's a literal true thing, to flow. You see some wild animal trying to grab hold of a monkey, a tiger or something. The monkey's, even you, if you were going to grab hold of a monkey or some chimp and you're trying to take your bag of potato chips back, crisps, he's just going to run around you, climb, jump on your head. It's going to be very hard to get them. It's like slippery like a fish or a bird flying away. And it's just their natural movement. He's not thinking about doing a style on you. He's just literally able to move. Now you might say you don't need to know Kung Fu to do that. You might say you don't need to be doing it. And this kind of same philosophy was actually, it's funny because this is in old Kung Fu stories too, and this is actually shown in old movies and stuff too, this kind of thing, because that's right. It's about enhancing yourself as a martial artist, as a human being, sorry. But you got martial artists, then you got human beings, but the thing is, the true traditional martial arts and the Kung Fu was actually trying to teach you that, but there had to be a formal system. There had to be formal systems and methods of training and drills and sparring and all kinds of things to help you with all these certain reactions, so that all the techniques come together until you just become, from learning simple techniques and exercises, so that they then eventually all come together and you're able to flow and change with these different techniques and flow in such a way that they're all as one, and then you become just one natural essence, you know, of the whole thing. You're just enhanced. So someone who's learned boxing, someone that can swim, someone that can ice skate really well, you know, someone that can play tennis really well, you've got a lot of skills there, you know. You can play the violin, whatever it is, you know, close your eyes and just memorize things. You've got a photographic memory, whatever it is, you've got all these different skills, they're all enhancing you. And this is what it's about, the whole idea of martial arts. So there's a lot of old knowledge and skill you can chuck away. You might walk past the library and say, look at all those old books there. But there's actually a lot of books that you might never read in your life that are very, very useful. So you can't learn everything, but there's a lot of quality in the traditional martial arts that people don't know about. And if you train it hard and you train it well, you'll see what's what. And if you're smart and you're working things, you'll see what works for you. You'll see where traditional martial arts does work, as opposed to just thinking in one straight way of thinking. You might be like an MMA person who's really good at grappling, punching, kicking, whatever it is, but you may not realize, because you've never trained some Kung Fu techniques, and you would never know how useful they could actually help you too. But this is a quick background on traditional martial arts and how practical it really is. Kung Fu, things like that, karate, aikido, ninjutsu, these arts, tai chi, is a kind of martial art. I practice a lot of Wing Chun, Yong Chun. You may have heard of things like Kempo and things what do you call it, related from that, yeah. And then other things like fencing and sword styles. That's an extension of the movements. So that's a good example. You're using tools to help you, but the expression of the self, the movement, is what it's really about. Okay, but do look into Kung Fu systems. If you're more interested, do let me know, and I'll make some videos and talking about different styles or my experiences or other information about the martial arts, traditional martial arts. Okay, do look into these arts. I would advise people to train some traditional Kung Fu and traditional martial arts. Thanks for watching.